What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the Wiki review of Starcraft 2 Co-op Commanders. Last time we left at Nova, I think, so we will do Stukov this time. In the call, we have Edpun Home. How are you today, Edpun Home?
I'm doing well.
Fantastic. I'm on 3 hours of sleep. This should be very nice. So let's begin. We begin with the intro section of Alexei Stukov as a commander. Edpun Home, what do you think of the intro section?
There's not a ton to say because a lot of it's just, what units does he have? But the playstyle being more passive, I think, is true for most players. P3 is a pretty passive playstyle. Obviously, P1 and, well, P2 technically, but those are much more active playstyles than passive.
That's
But
true.
you do have the passively producing bunkers and the infested colonist compounds. So I'd say the most popular strategy of his is definitely very passive, but it's not necessarily
My
going to be
favorite
the
too.
case in every playstyle. Yeah.
I love just chilling out and letting the bunkers do their thing. Anyway, let's proceed. So we have here the sidebar information for Stukov. What do you feel about this?
I'd say it's mostly accurate. He does have pretty slow ramp up time on P3 especially. P1 I'd say isn't too bad on the ramp up time, especially because you do have top bars to cover. But in the extreme early game, I suppose, if you're dealing with like void rifts and things like that, it can be a little slow. Bunkers are a powerful defensive tool, but they're also, more commonly just his entire game plan. So, with P3, with the other prestiges, they're more defensive tools. They are expensive, but one or two well placed bunkers can put in a lot of work on like P1 and P0
That's
and
true.
P2, I guess.
So it
But
says here affiliation Zerg Swarm. There are a lot of players and other people who call Stukov a Terran commander. What do you think about that?
well, I think the first page, the intro page, did mention he's like the first hybrid commander,
There's
right?
not
So you do
hybrid. He's
have
infested. There's no hybrid commanders. Come on, get your facts straight. Come on.
hybrid hybrid between Terran and Zerg, I should say. Not outright hybrid.
That other
Um,
hybrid, stupid hybrid. Uh, so it says
I would
here,
say he.
yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say. I'd say he does feel pretty split down the middle. I don't know. I almost feel like I guess it depends on the prestige. P3 feels more Zerg to me because you're very heavily relying on just lots of free units, creep to kind of move across the map quickly. P1 feels more Terran-esque. You've got your mech army. That's about as Terran as it gets. But it just kind of, I think it more depends on what style of Stukov you're playing as to whether he's more Zerg or more Terran.
You say that the first prestige feels a bit Terran-y, but why don't you think that it feels a bit like Roach Ravager in 1v1
Um,
or Dude Lord style?
I guess maybe if you're playing tanks, but like the Diamondbacks obviously are just very reminiscent of Diamondbacks. Um, they're
Yeah,
all
the
like
famous
the mechs and
Diamondbacks
units
like in
are all
1v1. Sure.
yes, well, like in Wings of Liberty or so. But I don't know. I don't really. I don't think they share a lot of qualities with Roach Ravager. A lot of his mech is, with the exception of siege tanks, like Diamondbacks and Liberators are very maneuverable, and in general they're very valuable. Roach Ravager is not a in 1v1. It's not a valuable composition. It's
I don't know. I
if I
don't play
lose 20.
1v1, so I'm just asking questions.
Yeah. Roach Ravager is one of those things where it's like if I lose 20, 30 roaches, I mean, obviously that hurts a bit, but it doesn't hurt nearly as much as losing 20 Diamondbacks or 10 siege tanks or something like that as Stukov. Um,
Speaking of siege
it definitely
tanks,
feels
how
a
do
lot
they
more.
compare to 1v1 swarm hosts?
Um, the tanks versus swarm hosts nowadays they don't really compare much at all because I'd say Heart of the swarm hosts are a little more similar with like long-term sieging, but swarm hosts in 1v1 aren't used much anymore. But ever since they got the a much longer cooldown and the locust flying, they are very much like just a harassment tool. You can use them in front on engagements, but that's like you know, not what you want to be doing with them. If you're fighting the enemy with them, then you feel bad. I wouldn't say tanks are too much like that.
Feels bad, man. What do you think about this first strength? Easy to rebuild army.
Again, P3, yes. P1, not so much. If you lose your whole army as P1, that hurts quite a lot.
Right?
Or just generally, if you're playing mech, regardless of the prestige, really. Although I assume you're probably on P1 if you're playing mech most of the time. If you're on P3, then yeah, I mean, your army,
Except that the
in
bunkers
essence,
themselves get destroyed. It's
that's
really
true.
expensive.
But yeah, I'd say if you're losing your bunkers, something has gone extremely wrong. It's a much more likely thing for you to like get fungled or stormed with diamondbacks and whatnot than it is to.
But
Yeah, and you misplayed if you got enemies on top of your bunkers usually.
it clearly says right here, easy to rebuild army, not easy to respawn army. So clearly it says
That's
building,
true.
right?
Yeah, I would say that's not super accurate. If you're actually losing the army itself, that hurts in most cases
Yeah.
at least.
So I would maybe reword this. Maybe you could just say easy to replace infested. That'll be way more accurate. Late game dominance. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. Once you have the bunkers up, there's very few things that are gonna mess with that. Like, and it's really only mutators like transmutation can can hurt in that case still,
Propagators.
but and
I would
propagate.
also add a qualifier in front of late game or behind late game dominance. Late game dominance if you're fighting in a straight line. If the enemies start spawning from different directions, such as Temple of the Past, then if you're going bunker style, you might have a little bit of issue trying to fight the attack wave prong on one corner of the map, the southeast corner, and then switching your top bar, your side meta rather, to the northwest corner, and it takes forever for your army to get there, and they trickle in, so they just get wiped out a few at a time. So, I'm not sure about late game dominance. Period. Maybe late game dominance in certain situations. What do you think?
Yeah, I think for a lot of players that's very true. Obviously, you do have top bars in the late game that you can kind of use in those situations, but they do have cooldowns.
Also,
If you actually have a decent, they're not.
they're not specifically late game stuff. They're available throughout the game.
That's true. I just mean once you have the bunkers up, the bunkers deal with the attack wave from the top left on Temple, and then you have Alexander and or the Apocalypse in the lower right, and what is it, 45-second cooldown, 90-second I think on the infest structure, so that helps out
Something
a
like
lot.
that. Yeah.
And if you have brood queens,
Hey.
which is tall order, or any other units, you can split those off to deal. And brood queens are very good at slowing with the fungal growth you've never used, I think, from a previous video. Um, that is very good at dealing damage and slowing enemies. So there are ways to be still good in multiple directions in the late game, but it's going to take more than just building your bunkers and then falling
Yeah.
asleep.
And at that point,
Some mission.
I'm not sure if we would call it dominance.
That's true.
All right, let's continue.
Um,
Info. What do you think about this basic info and mastery options?
Yeah, I mean, the recommended for experienced players thing just comes from what it says in game. I think they basically just put that on everyone except the free commanders, really. I'd say he's one of the noob friendliest commanders out there because you can just build bunkers and then right click one time and all of your units go there. It's built in F2, really, with
Yes.
bunkers at least. So
Yes.
I'd say I think they just did that by default for every single commander they added in later on, but he's definitely not an experienced player's commander. I think you can get a lot more out of him if you're experienced, but you don't need that in 90% of situations. Just building bunkers is enough most of the time.
100% agree.
Um,
I would recommend this for
yeah.
new players, like for those who are just getting into RTS. If you want to get into RTS and you want to help out right away, hey, Stukov's a pretty good guy. As long as you know, of course, the very basics, having control groups, being able to command your army, getting a good economy. That's the very basic. But once you get that part down, Stukov is probably the easiest one to go with. Let's continue. Prestigious. What
Um,
do you think about these?
yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of analysis here. It's just how they actually work. I don't know.
Yes.
I assume maybe the wiki talks a little bit about prestige choices later on in terms of actually what to pick.
Later on, yes.
Um,
All right,
yeah,
let's move
so
on.
more to cover there.
Next up, we have a section called Charges. This talks specifically about how differently Stukov's units produce relative to other co-op commanders. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not providing a ton of analysis, but I'd say the big thing with the charges is it does make them a little bit easier because you have your charges build up more similarly to Zerg. You don't have to be right on top of like with normal Terran commanders. Next unit needs to be queued by the time the first unit finishes. You can kind of just come back every minute or so, spend your money, look away again. So again, it's another way where his macro is a little bit easier, I'd say.
You know,
Um,
kind of
yeah.
unrelated to specifically the Charges thing, but in Nexus Co-op, sometimes you can just right-click a button on the command card to have that. Actually, maybe not Nexus Co-op. I think it's the Joggers mod. You can just right-click a button on the command card, and that would automatically do stuff. Like there are some production structures, or maybe it was the carrier. You can just right-click the command card for build interceptor, so it just automatically build interceptors. How do you feel about having that option for normal difficulty and casual difficulty for Stukov? Just or even any commander, just right-click the command card for Marine, for example, Rainer. Just right-click that for Hydralisk for Kerrigan. Just it would automatically build. What do you think? What do you feel about it for like lower difficulties?
Um, I don't know. I think that's one of those things where you're setting people up for failure later on. I assume most people don't want to play casual or normal forever, right? So you're kind of training them to not worry about that. And then if they ever want to level up, they're going to have to kind of relearn the macro and everything. When I was doing a lot more 1v1, like after you spent 5 years doing something in an unoptimal way, even if it's better to learn another way, it's such a pain to try to remap your brain for that.
That's true.
Like
That was my
it's the way you spread
experience when
your things
transitioning
like that.
from standard hotkeys to the core hotkey setup. It's so it threw me off like something fierce when I started using it back in 2014. But now it's like muscle memory. I'm not good at the game. I just have
Yeah,
muscle memory. That's basically
yeah.
it.
So I'm not sure it's a require. Like I think it's casual and normal is easy enough to where I think it would just kind of throw a wrench into players that are ever trying to
Also, you'd be
get better.
surprised. You'd be surprised how many players just like the casual and normal difficulty. I know you're like a former Grandmaster player, but I think a lot of more casual StarCraft 2 players just like playing the campaign on like the lower difficulties. But the thing is, I don't know how many. I read something somewhere. I think it was on my Discord that back in 2018 or something, a Blizzard dev said that the majority of players play on normal difficulty. So I'm not sure how true that is today, when basically no more development is being made for StarCraft 2. But that I think I read that in one of my Discords. Also, the specific thing about charges here is that the 5 charges applies only to the command center, the starport, and the factory. The infested barracks, as it says here, produces 10 charges, and his actual main production structure, the bunker, just produces automatically. That's why I thought of just having the automatic production structure, because the bunker doesn't have charges; it just spits out infested automatically. That's why I thought of it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, that makes.
yeah, that was just a little tangent. Let's move on. This was interesting. So it has a strategy section, and it talks about, well, how different he is from most commanders. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I think P3 is a very unique animal. Again, it's
Like a
the
cat,
P3 versus P1.
or
It
more
feels like
like
this is
a
basic
the P3 is more like a llama,
uh
more like a llama,
platypus maybe,
a platypus.
a
That's my
llama,
editor.
something.
Oh,
Um, it feels like this is very much just like I mean I don't even know when this was written. Like if it predates. I mean, obviously it doesn't fully predate Prestiges because I think they're on here or they are on here. We just read them, but I don't know how much of the actual strategy and stuff was written before or after that because it does feel like it's not really considering P1 as something that's ever happening
yes.
because obviously
I
P1 you
think
might not build
being
you
a
don't get the
wiki,
infested colony compound.
yeah, being a wiki, this was probably written in sections. This section in particular was probably written pretty soon after the commander came out, or when the last main change was made for him. that didn't have prestiges. I think this when this was written, right?
Yeah, I mean it seems largely accurate for P3. P1,
Yes.
I could see even the power sets is recommending you probably don't want volatile infested spawn chance and you don't want infested infantry duration for P1, but you might want those for P3. I think
Do you
what's the
use
alternative?
do you use volatile infested spawn chance for third prestige?
I don't. I'm just saying if you were going to, you definitely wouldn't want to use it on P1 since
Yeah.
you
I
know don't
think
really get
I would just get the
spawn.
other one here, the infested spawn, the infrastructure cooldown. I think that's the superior one for Stukov in general, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So we disagree with this power set one.
Yeah, even on P3, I disagree, and then even if you're going P1, then power set 3, you want mech attack speed, not
Yes,
infested infantry
definitely.
duration. So
And power set two, I actually prefer the Alexander cooldown for this one. It's probably more
um,
ambivalent here, or ambivalent, but personally, my personal preference is to go for Alexander because it's like the better anti-air between the two.
yeah, it's kind of whatever I feel like doing on that one. I think sometimes I'm like I want a lot of apocalypses because they're cool.
They are
But
very
I
cool,
think
aren't they?
I generally go more for Alexander cooldown over Apocalypse.
I'd like an Apocalypse as a pet. Can you imagine the commute to work when you don't have to care about traffic anymore because the Apocalypse just runs over them? That'd be the
Yeah,
best.
yeah,
Best commute ever.
for sure. That'd be pretty nice.
Anyway, let's
Uh,
proceed. Now we have a section called Prestige Strategies, which talks about each of these prestiges and then gives recommendations for them. Let's go ahead with the first one, Frightful Flesh Roller. What do you think?
I think they slightly overplay his weakness in the early game. I think top bars, similarly to P3, top bars cover a world of sin as far as early game goes.
I agree.
Um, so I don't think it's that weak in the early game. I think it's mainly just, it does have a lot more
Maybe weak
ways
relative
it
to
can go
Zagar or
wrong.
something. That's probably what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. I think he's just generally weak in the early game compared to like Zagara, though I don't think P3 or P1 makes it much worse. Um, I think
Fair. Fair.
it's generally accurate. I think his army may require a short rest. It really only applies to siege tanks for the whatever the word is for getting more automated mitosis. That's what it is.
I already know what it's called.
I think it's automated mitosis. We'll call that correct. um,
Sure.
so
Let's.
yeah, I think P1 aside from the early game thing, they're generally correct about that.
Yes.
P2, I mean, obviously there's the glaring gap of information of don't play this prestige unless you have
Right.
a top tier computer,
I would
and then probably
I would
play it.
even just say that the first sentence should be Plague Warden is bad, don't use it. And then skip a whole paragraph, then just go into whatever else you have to say. This, in my
Yeah,
opinion, is the worst prestige in the game. Not the weakest. There are weaker ones, but this one's the worst. From a design perspective and from a gameplay perspective, because like I said, it lags the game and it accumulates too many abilities in the Banshee where I feel like this would have been better for the Liberator, for example, because it has no active abilities, or better yet, the Overlord, because it's already a transport. And if I recall correctly, no, I do recall correctly, there is a unit in Nexus Co-op that an Overlord. The Overlord can throw Banelings. So all they have to do is basically have the Overlord be able to load the infested civilians and turn them all into Banelings. That would make this prestige instantly much better because A, they don't all unload at the same time, causing your computer to and your allies' computer to lag. And B, it's already much more powerful because it's Banelings. That's what I feel at least.
yeah, something needs to happen for sure.
Delete
Although
this
it never will
prestige. Change this prestige.
at
Oh
this
my
point.
Donnie. Yeah. Well, how about
Yeah.
the third one?
Third one. Let's see. There was something I think. I don't know. It's a little nitpicky, but they're no longer usable for base defense is kind of true, I guess. But on a lot of maps, they kind of still are base defense, because even if enemies get close to your bunkers and they're behind your main pack of army, just the trickle of 30 infested marines coming out at a time is enough to defend a lot of the time.
Also, especially true
But
for this week's mutation. They just defend the missiles by just walking in a straight line and shooting everything that comes their way and comes
yeah,
across
just
them
by
even.
existing.
Yeah, just by existing, they're already base defense. So,
But
still, yeah, not the traditional
and
sense. Yeah.
needing a large number of infested bunkers is like, you really don't need that many. I feel like once you have like 10, you're already doing pretty good work. It's just it's kind of just cherry on top once you get up to 20, 30, 40, etc. Um,
Don't listen to him.
you're basically
You make as
already
many
decided
bunkers as
right
you
at that point.
want. Don't listen to him. Make as many bunkers as you want. Be a little happy little bunker spammer that you are. I know you. I know you. You just keep spamming bunkers, okay? Don't listen to that guy. Listen to me. Keep spamming your bunkers. Be happy. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as much of a bunker spam hater as like Eviling is or anything. I respect it. Sometimes you just want to chill out, but personally, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like every now and then. But man, would I get bored doing that every game for games on games on games. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's relatively accurate.
Yeah. Actually, this compares his bunkers to miniature colonist compounds. I would actually compare this a little bit more to swarm hosts because they're rooted in the ground. They spit out units one at a time, or I guess for the swarm host, two at a time, and the units spawn just walk toward, or I guess in the swarm host perspective, fly toward the target, and they shoot independently, and they don't stop spawning for the swarm host. So I feel like it's closer to a swarm host than it is to a colonist compound almost. Maybe I'm just weird for thinking that. I don't know. That's what I think at least.
No, I'd agree. I think the colonist compound is much more bursty in its power, whereas bunkers are just like a constant little bit of power, kind of like a swarm host would be. One bunker, one infested compound is very good. One bunker, is not doing a lot on its own, but just like a swarm host. Once you have 20 swarm hosts or 20 bunkers, then it's just this
Yeah.
constant trickle contributing to
Yeah.
the overall board. So I'd agree with that.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on. So we have a section here for his strategies. The first one is called The Meaning of Sacrifice, and it goes into, well, 2 paragraphs. What do you think about these? By the way, you can just pause the video if you want to read yourself, but we're just commenting it straight away so that we don't waste your time. Your time is valuable to me. Let's continue. What do you think about this section?
Yeah, I mean, I I'm not really sure what he's talking about, or they're talking about with
I think it's
requires the
just
player push in waves. I don't think that's really very accurate. It's
I,
just one continuous wave. It's sometimes bigger because of the infested colonist compound, but it's not like I'm holding my infested marines back until my compound pushes out and then like, okay, now we can attack. Now that half of you have timed out, you just kind of go, and when the infested colonist compound shoots out its infested, great, and when it doesn't, you still have infested marines. But yeah, I think other than that, it's yeah. I mean, there's not a lot to say about his main strategy. You build bunkers. Sometimes you move them towards the enemy base a little bit,
then you
and
win.
then that's yeah.
The title, the header, throws me off more than anything. The paragraph that was fine. I don't feel about it. I don't feel strongly about it either way. But I feel like the title is kind of being overly dramatic or something almost. I feel like, what? Why is it called a sacrifice? Is it because they gave up their lives? They're not even alive. They're undead. They're infested. And a sacrifice, in my opinion at least, requires a knowing choice to give up something in exchange for a greater good. In Stukov's case, there is nothing given up willingly. He just he just spawned zombies basically against their will. Where's the sacrifice there? Right?
Yeah, I guess maybe they're talking about all the many Terrans who gave their lives to become infested.
They gave up their
I don't
lives
know.
willingly? Sure. Yeah, sure. Sign up today to become an infested. For the greater good.
Yeah.
Let's just continue. Next, we have a section called Not Good, Not Great, Not Amazing, Not Incredible, but the greatest military technology of all time or something. What do you think? What do you think? Think about this.
It feels like this section was written by Eviling, desperately pushing people to make things other than bunkers a little bit. Hey guys, this other stuff exists. You should really use it.
It's the greatest,
No
guys.
one. 5 years later, and nobody's listening on the ladder, at least the co-op ladder. I think the saying that all of the starport options are niche. I don't know a situation where I'd be like, ah, man, I wish I hadn't built these brood queens. Um, they're good support. They're good for fungaling any air or ground units. They're good at single target damage. They're area damage. So I wouldn't say they're niche. They might be niche in that you only very rarely encounter a player who's going to make them. But I don't think they're actually like. There's not really a situation where I don't want those.
Come to think of it, I'm trying to think of a situation where I've ever thought I wish it didn't make these brood queens. Usually I say I wish I did run out of energy on these brood queens, or I wish these brood queens were better, or I wish these weren't so expensive. But I've never actually regretted making them. Interesting.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
What I choose
I
to make
think
them.
yeah, more so it's are they especially non-brood? I think brood queens making a few at least is always worth it on P3, but everything else it's like is it necessarily better to just not build just one more bunker instead of building a couple tanks? I'm
Right.
not sure. It's probably just better to build more bunkers.
More bunkers
So
is always the right answer. Anyway,
yeah,
let's continue.
unfortunately.
Next, we have a section called Bulwark of the Dead. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I'd say it's mostly accurate. He does do pretty well defensively. Again, not so well in the early game because bunkers are 400 minerals. So even if you're not P3, that's a lot to commit to early game defense.
Right? It costs the
Especially
same
if you're
as a
not
command
P3.
center.
Yeah, so it's a whole expansion basically.
It's a whole expansion.
Um,
There was a playstyle before. I know Monk himself used to play this. He used the infested bunkers as units. Like he would uproot them, crawl them to the enemy base, have them use their melee attack while the guys inside shoot. He says that it's actually a more solid composition that is just letting your infested walk out of the bunkers. But what do you think about that?
I don't know. It feels like it's not really worth the putting your bunkers in danger.
Right?
Um, for any extra power you get, I'd rather just have endless free units that I don't care what happens to them. Really,
Of course,
I
for a
think it.
high level player like Monk, it would probably be more of a skill issue if you can't keep your guys alive. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, but going back on topic, it just this actually just talks about his defense. I don't know why he has to over dramatize it by calling it Bulwark of the Dead. But yeah, it's good. Defense is good, especially when you don't go with the third prestige, because with the third prestige, your bunkers are just swarm hosts that feed siege tanks. If you're on defense, basically. Other than
Yep.
that, not much to say. Let's move on. Next section we have Best of Both Worlds. Which worlds? I have no idea. Does he mean Earth and Char, or Korhal and Shakuras, or Ire and
I
Xereth?
assume air and ground would be my guess.
Air and Ground are both in every world, though.
I know, but it's a phrase. I don't know. That's just my guess as to what he's trying to say.
Yeah, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, a lot of it's just telling you what they do. I guess you do have to be a little careful with Immortals, with the Apocalypse, but again, it has a pretty beefy health pool, so I'm not usually too worried about losing it because by the time that health pool's been chewed through, it's probably going to time out soon, anyways. Um, Yeah, Alexander, I do think a lot of people could benefit from paying more attention to where it's going to crash. Like it mentions, it deals 300 damage to anything it lands on. So that's a
Yes.
nice little bit of burst damage on something. So, if you can right click it specifically over like some Thors or siege tanks or hybrid, good to
Or
do.
Kate Lockwell's face.
Uh, okay, okay, Lauko's face. Yeah, I think it's all, obviously it's pretty accurate because it's just talking about the numbers.
Yeah, I think this just talks about his top bar specifically. The first world is the world of the Apocalypse, which, to be fair, it looks as large as a world. And the second world is Alexander, which again looks as large as a world. So I guess that's where it's coming from. Two worlds, two big fat worlds. The Alexander and the Apocalypse. So yeah, it just says he has good top bars, and it's true. He has good top bars,
Yeah.
but call them the best. Stretching it a little bit. Let's move on. Now we have a section called Synergies, which you guys would be familiar. Let's begin. How do you feel about the synergy between Artanis and Stukov?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty accurate. Shield overcharge on Stukov can be nice to make your infested more beefy, but at the end of the day, a lot of the times you don't care that much because if the infested in the front die, there's just more behind them. Um, so it's like, yeah, it's nice, but I was gonna have more infested anyways. It's not like Raynor, right, where it's on Marines or something like that, and you actually care a little bit more if they die.
Yeah.
Um, but
Actually,
yeah, I mean it's nice to have, but nothing like crazy synergistic.
yeah, actually, I feel like in some situations they might have anti synergy. For example, if Artanis is trying to walk his Dragoon somewhere, but there is this whole wall of infested that drags his Dragoons the other way. Dragoon, more like draggy. They get dragged. So, aside from the shield overcharge thing, they might have a bit of anti synergy because they compete for the same space, right?
Yeah,
So
maybe an argument for going Tempests when you're with a Stukov ally. I know a lot of people like to
yeah,
do that anyways, and Tempest
yeah.
very good against single target. All the infested Marines generally going to be pretty good against small enemies, so you're not too worried about that. So
I guess that makes
maybe
sense.
something to keep in mind. But
So I guess
yeah, it
minimal
definitely happens sometimes.
synergy is pretty accurate. Yeah. Okay.
I've lost Gary bots on missed opportunities to my army just being incapable of getting to it thanks to a wave of infested pushing me in the other direction. So
You get dragged. Let's move
yeah.
on. Next up, we have Vorazun and Stukov. Do you feel they have good synergy?
Um, it's okay. I mean, there's not a lot of inherent synergy. It talks about the dark pylon, right? But that's only in one spot for a relatively temporary amount of time. And I wouldn't say that's so much a synergy of Vorazun and Stukov so much as it's a synergy of Vorazun with literally anyone. Yeah, if anyone's units are near a dark pylon, they get that bonus. It's not a unique synergy between, because that's not like two elements that work together, one from each commander. It's just Vorazun has that buff for everyone, right?
Mm,
Um,
probably a better synergy point between them is that, to your point, Brood Queens can give Vorazun's units detection because Oracle is probably
yes.
one of the worst detections in all of co-op. So if you can use your Brood Queens to Ocular Symbiote, Vorazun's Corsairs, and Dark Templar, that might probably be better than any of the time stop shenanigans that you would contrive. Or probably what everyone thinks Stukov and Vorazun synergies are. Stukov gives his gas to Vorazun. That's probably what most people think. I guess
Yeah, there is that.
that's also viable. Maybe give one gas if Vorazun really needs it, but you can make Brood Queens. They're pretty good. Uh, better than any Oracle that Vorazun can produce, unless it's Ancalagus Oracles. Ancalagus Oracles are incredible. They're really good. Uh, let's move on. How do you feel about Karax and Stukov?
I do think a lot of what it says is pretty accurate. They can synergize pretty well because Karax, especially P3 Karax, so much of your power comes from top bars, which don't care about trying to get to the enemy through a wave of infested.
Yes.
They get you vision, and you can slap down righteous fury from above, and so that's good. And then yes, Stukov obviously, if you are going P3 as Stukov, then Karax does still have his cannons, unless he's also going P2. So you're able to actually be the defensive cannon guy if you need to be. And the repair beam is nice for call downs, and yeah, chrono wave and chrono field and all that's pretty nice. So I think they're a pretty solid prestige or synergy as Stukov synergies go. Obviously, I think there's the number one meme one is coming up in a bit, but this one's solid as well.
Actually, there are more synergies to that. I feel like, for example, if Carax has the second prestige or no prestige on, they have the passive chrono, which will actually help Stukov, especially if they're the first prestige. That will help their production even more. So that might even help their early game a little bit. So there's that. Also, speaking of super chrono, that can I think that supercharges his infested colonist compound, so he can get a lot of research done early and a lot of charges. I think. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it's saying. So they wouldn't be wrong. So I'd
Yeah.
buy that.
And just being able to those top bars can even further help Stukov's hordes punch through ramps and choke points that are heavily defended by like tanks and stuff by just destroying
Yep.
the tanks from orbit. Anyway, let's proceed. Next up, we have the synergy between Alarak and Stukov. That's quite lengthy. I probably should have split this into 2 paragraphs. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, the infested Diamondback's fungal snare can bring air units down into the reach of Alarak's supplicants. I'm like, oh, great. So they can tickle them,
Hooray.
I guess? I don't know.
Hooray, supplicants.
Seems a little strange, but
Oh my
I guess,
god.
yes, it does do that. And Vanguards, although I feel like not many people make Vanguards, so doesn't apply that much. But
That's
yeah,
true.
the infested infantry provide plenty of fuel for Empower Me, I guess is true. Obviously, they're not mechanical units, so they don't give the double buff or anything like that, and they do take up ground space for units that might give more powerful.
Like
They're not very
Wrathwalkers?
like Wrathwalkers, which can walk over the infested, I think. So
I was about to say.
um,
What would they crowd out?
yeah, I think.
Supplicants?
Yeah, supplicants. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine.
I think it's pretty funny when you have a barracks that's walking, a barracks with legs and overcharge, and also spotting infested, or rather spotting doodlings. That's probably their best synergy.
Yeah,
The overcharged, infested, or double infested barracks is their best synergy.
yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't know. The thing about Brood Queens where it's like fungal growth will allow psionic orbs and vanguards to hit more targets reliably. It's like I feel like you are
No.
expecting a lot more coordination out of the average co-op player than they are going to be doing.
Most
I don't
co
think even I would
players,
be doing that, and I'd consider myself pretty micro intensive, but that seems like a lot.
especially expecting else to
Ping,
cooperate.
fungal growth right here. Launch an orb. I don't know. That seems unlikely to actually come up, but
I don't know where people get this idea that people cooperate in a mode called co-op. People don't cooperate co-op. Come on. What would ever
yeah,
give
no.
you that idea? uh,
Eh.
anyway.
All the allies do is ping the bonus objective so that you will go do it, so they don't have to, but get mad if you don't. You won't,
They leave the
That's,
game and stuff. Perfect. Let's
yeah.
let's move on. Pretty good synergy though. The walking bunker thing or the walking barracks thing. Also, the empower me. Pretty good. Moving on. Oh wait, another synergy is war prisms and infested banshees P2. Best synergy ever. I should do a video of that. Let's move
Yeah.
on. Next up, we have Phoenix. They they cover each other very well in spite of very little direct synergy. Well, how do you feel about that?
I suppose it's mostly true. I don't think Phoenix's army is super duper fragile, but I guess it's a little more fragile than some. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
I think it all makes a decent amount of sense. You do have the Stukov is generally kind of defending the base pretty well, which Phoenix you have a cover for your if you're going P2, your shell farm and whatnot. But yeah, and infest structure also. It's always nice to have because Phoenix doesn't have
I'm trying to think of
the best.
ways that they actually synergize. The best thing I can think of is Stukov's SCVs can repair Phoenix's buildings
That's
when they take hull damage, and
yes.
they don't block each other when Phoenix goes mass carrier. That's about it. Or Kaldalis covers Stukov's early game.
That's true.
Kaldalis,
Phoenix does have very good early game, so
yeah, Kaldalis buys Stukov enough time. Kaldalis and Apollos and Alexander buy Stukov enough time to get into the late game with mass bunkers. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
yeah, allows you to be more greedy with your build because you don't have to worry about handling early game stuff as much.
And
Of
I
course,
guess
that's if you trust your
conservators
ally to handle.
can prolong your infested's lives a little bit. They take 30% less damage, I think. It's 30 or 50, something like
Yeah,
that. They take
30,
less damage.
35.
35. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's true, but I mean, you're kind of, I guess you're chasing the infested down, cost the siege up. Oh, they move forward 3 inches, unsiege, move up, siege up. I don't know. It's
you
doable.
can throw up
especially
the conservator field while unsieged.
Oh, true. Yeah, yeah. It does have the active ability. So yeah, I mean, it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's fine, but yeah, it's something that they can do like to any other commander. So this is true though. This section, this is true. Not very little direct synergy, yes, but they can cover for each other indirectly. So yeah, this one's fine. Let's move on. Okay, before we move on, actually, there's a missing commander here. Protoss commander Zeratul. Zeratul isn't mentioned because this second was probably written before Zeratul was a thing. So how do you think Zeratul and Stukov synergize?
I don't. There's not much of anything. I mean, other than just, I guess Zeratul's pretty good against big targets, so you can target those down while the infestor dealing with smaller targets or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Zeratul is able to get around to multiple places very quickly, so I guess he can cover for Stukov's weakness of everything's in one
Mobility.
place
Yeah,
pretty well.
although his siege tanks have deep tunnel. Although yeah, kind of
true.
what you alluded to. I feel like whenever Stukov and Zeratul are in a party, Stukov's mostly playing catch up to Zeratul because Zeratul's just that much stronger. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel. Let's actually just move on. Yeah, there's not a lot of synergy. Maybe that's why there wasn't a section here, but just because there's actually nothing to talk about. Moving on.
Yeah.
Okay, now you move on to the Tehran commanders, Raynor and Stukov. What do you think about this?
Well, I don't agree with medics can heal infested. That sounds like a waste of your energy if you're making medics.
Heal the timed unit. What a wonderful use of energy.
Yeah. I think that doesn't make a lot of sense. One big thing we've talked about on a different commander, Vorzun, that would be as big, if not bigger, here is detection.
Yeah.
Stukov can get Raynor detection really, really well, where Raynor, his only detection means are scan and missile turrets. So,
Yes.
detection synergy is probably their biggest one, and I mean that's not so much a synergy as Stukov dragging Raynor up with him. There's nothing. Raynor's not doing anything in this synergy.
Awkward
it's like a symbiotic relationship where only one party is actually getting anything out of it.
It's a parasitic relationship.
Yeah, which it's. I mean, you'd think the Zerg infested commander would be the one being the parasite, but it's the opposite, really.
Raynor's the parasite.
Yeah, so there's that. I guess. Yeah, that would be the biggest thing I'd say for them.
Yeah, but not much. Actually, other than that detection thing, they actually compete. They compete for minerals. Raynor can steal Stukov's minerals for spider mines. Raynor can steal, Stukov can steal Raynor's real estate by just building bunkers all over the areas where Raider should be building depots and barracks and stuff. They actually can be anti-synergistic a little bit if you don't plan well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you probably don't want to go for bio so much because if you're pushing together, that's just so many low
If you're
range units all in one spot, and like 10% of your units are actually going to be attacking at any given point, whereas like battle cruisers or Vikings or
yeah.
Banshees can just fly over.
If you're going
And
bio,
then you're-
you'll actually push alongside Stukov. You get pushed by
yeah,
Stukov's
yeah,
river of infested.
yeah. So I would probably not go bio most of the time with a Stukov ally, but yeah, I think they're very mediocre together in terms of their synergies.
All right, let's move on. Next up, we have Swan and Stukov. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean the mention of Vespene drones. I think P1 Vespene drones might be decently useful. Although in my experience playing P1,
You don't
I'm
even
running out
need
of
it.
minerals as much as I'm running out of gas. So
Yeah.
you just be floating extra gas at that point. So I don't know. I don't think so. Really, I don't think there's much. When I play Swan, I almost never make Vespene drones at any point in the game.
Neither do
But,
I. And unlike you, I get heat for it because I publish my gameplay on YouTube. So people get mad at me for not
yeah,
getting Vespene drone mastery because clearly 1 gas per minute is better. No, I'm exaggerating. 1 gas per minute is better than the earliest laser drill you can get, and having concentrated beam right at the 5-minute mark.
yeah. I don't know. Anytime I do get it, I just look at the end of the game and I'm like, oh, I have 0 minerals and 6,000 gas. Glad I spent the money on that one.
Usually I do get the gas drones, but only when I'm starting to float minerals. Like when I'm already producing wraiths and I'm getting upgrades at the same time, and I notice that my gas bank is dropping rapidly because I'm getting upgrades while I'm making wraiths. That's the only time I start getting the gas drones when I need it, basically.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I mean, I never run into that situation. Maybe if I built more no, I don't know. I never really run into needing gas. I'll get them
Yeah.
if it's like I'm with Warzone or but anyways, that's Swan synergies. We I can't get into that too much.
Yeah. A better
Yeah, I
synergy
mean,
is Swan doing a mass factory strategy. He just flies the factory, and when it takes too much damage, Stukov can infest it for some healing and distract enemy fire. Plus, flying broodlings. Also pretty good. That will actually provide extra vision for Swan's laser drill. So I just do lots and lots of damage while also healing Swan's buildings. So that's pretty good. Yeah. I guess the Hercules with their teleport can technically also provide vision for Stukov's top bars, like the Alexander or the Apocalypse, if you need to snipe an objective. Although, if we're talking about sniping, Wraiths are probably better for that.
Yeah. Well, in Wraiths, I mean, as far as they're not going to get pushed around, are a pretty good composition to go with Stukov. They're fast, so they can get around to cover anywhere that Stukov's not, and they're flying, so they aren't just going to get assimilated into Stukov's army and go where they go. So
here's something I haven't tested personally. Can Stukov use tech reactors?
What would that do? Like, how would that help?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think it helps really because you can't do double. Like, if only tech reactors let you do double research, then
double research, right?
But you're not building
so I guess
units; you just have charges. Unless the reactor doubles your charge rate,
Yeah, I guess it's functionally irrelevant. Even if it does technically attach, it doesn't do anything. Oh well. I guess there's a reason why I haven't thought of it, and the reason why I haven't used it. Guys, I want 3 hours of sleep. Forgive me a little bit here. I just got home from work. Actually, No, it's not even got home from work. I got home from work, terrible traffic. I cooked dinner for me and the wife after a long day, after 3 hours of sleep. So yeah, you guys have to forgive me for this. Oh my Donnie. Other synergies for Swan and Stukov. Huh. Detection.
I mean, like they said,
Ocular
the,
symbiote.
Yeah,
You don't have to
that's
build
true.
science vessels anymore. Good.
Yeah, that
And
helps for sure.
Swan doesn't have to build siege tanks anymore because Stukov's tanks are better.
Yeah.
They just are. Poor Swan. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. No, that's pretty much it. Let's move on. Next up, we have Stukov and Nova. What do you think about this one?
I, the where is it? Nova and her elite marines can serve as the early game anti-air Stukov lacks. I'm like, why are you building elite marines?
This section was written pre-prestige. You can tell.
Yeah.
You can just tell.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be doing that, but yeah, I mean, infest structure can help because Nova does have an early game problem. I mean, you can handle it, but it hamstrings your early development on like Rifts to Core Hall or whatever. So if Stukov
Yeah.
can handle that for you, then that's nice, I guess. I wouldn't necessarily call that a synergy so much as just Stukov handling that.
That's
himself.
actually the
I don't
game.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it is true. Like liberators can sit behind the infested and deal extreme damage while being pretty well protected because everything's shooting at the infested, so that is
True.
nice.
Unless they're a Scourge.
So unless they're Scourge. But even if they're Scourge, I mean, infested marines, you have so many with such just high rate of fire, they're probably getting taken out before
That's
they make it
true.
to
That's very true.
liberators. So hey,
Unless they're
they work
Vipers.
together. Well, yeah. But I mean, it's fine. They have decent composition synergy there, I guess. But
Yes. Plus Nova has spider
and, yeah, I
mines.
mean-
Spider mines are good against Poopagators, which Stukov is terrible at.
that's true. But yeah, then it's a matter of is the Stukov actually going to avoid the Poopagators? And you know what? I doubt it. So maybe it'll help.
Maybe it'll help. Also, there's a section here that I actually agree with. The early game detection for Stukov is missile turrets. Having Nova around is so much better than just building
Yes.
missile turrets everywhere. This is very true. Nova just provides early game detection. Very nice for Stukov. Also, defensive drone on the Alexander or the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Literally unkillable.
Forever. Yeah, that's true.
That'd
And
be so
Griffin
good.
Airlift, obviously, it's not really a direct synergy between them. It just, Nova can move her units and their units, so it helps with that mobility problem Stukov can have. So that's nice, but it's nothing. It's nothing unique. These
Airlift
commanders,
both Alexander and the Apocalypse. How
Yeah,
large
and
is the Griffin?
Yeah, that's a big shit. Yeah, that's a big ship. I feel like
That's a
there
big
should be like
ship.
a bulge in the side of the ship when it loads the Apocalypse up, But
You can
yeah,
actually airlift a maxed out carrier fleet with the Griffin
Yeah.
airlift. How large is that Griffin?
it's a TARDIS in disguise, I guess. I don't know.
It's a Spear of Adun, actually. Or, well, it's Terran, so more like the Spear of Arcturus or something. The Spear of Rigel. That's what it is. It's that
Yeah.
large. I need sleep.
Let's move this along, Grandpa.
Alright. Let's move this along. Hot and Horner, what do you think?
I mean, they are an interesting composition, I guess. It is true that bunkers, do help with that defense that Han and Horner basically have no static defense. Missile turrets barely
Yes.
count. You do have mines, but I mean that is a limited resource, so have to be a little careful with that. So Stukov helps shore that up. You don't get the synergy of Han and Horner's recycling. usually, because the infested Marines don't actually recycle because they're timed units. So
They're
generally, you're
bad
not
for the
going to have that
environment.
P1. Yeah, P1 you can have that, but I mean, again, you're not really wanting to lose these in the first place. But it's nice to have, I guess. The
Yes.
composition thing with sovereign battle cruisers, yeah, I mean, fairly good, I guess. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like super interesting synergistically between the two of them, but they work okay together.
Yeah. They just work together, kind of like Phoenix. They kind of just work together, just fine. And
Yeah.
there are a couple commanders missing here. First one is Tychus. Tychus and Stukov. Is there synergy there? No, it's kind of like Tychus. It's like Stukov and Zeratul. Stukov plays catch up. I guess
There is the detection synergy again with P2. You know, Tychus doesn't have detection on his own. Sirius does, obviously. Some of them do, but being able to drop an ocular symbiote on like Tychus makes it a lot better.
that's true. Yeah, that's actually true. That's
So there's
very good,
that.
actually. Yeah. And then
So
Stukov can also, again, this weak mutation. Stukov can just put bunkers in Stukov or in Tychus' base to protect him from missiles. Although, again, I just played as Tychus now. Of course, I didn't record it, but the Outlaws do just fine defending their bases from missiles. So it's nice to have, but not necessary. Other synergies? No, nothing really. Just detection. And then Stukov mostly
yeah,
trying to play catch up.
yeah,
Tychus clears the entire map before Stukov gets his first bunker. That's how good Tychus is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
Basically,
finally Arcturus. More the same.
yeah. I mean, the 20% movement and attack speed buff from the
The blimp.
Imperial Witnesses is pretty good. I guess
That's
not
almost
too
as
bad.
good as the stat zone buff.
Yeah. So there's that. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of special stuff there, I guess.
Earth splitters
Yeah, I
providing
mean,
vision for top bars.
yeah, Earth Splitters pretty good. Although Earth Splitters and bunkers can compete for space, so there's
I don't think.
that issue potentially,
Oh
depending on the
yeah, that's
map
true.
you're
That's
on.
true. Yeah, depending on the map, they can compete for space, so not even that great.
Yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, I think there's not a whole lot of
Not a
super
whole lot of
specials.
synergy for these
The later
two.
commanders really didn't feel like they had a lot of like. It felt like synergisticness was not
They
in
just
the
kind of
development
outmuscle
plan
everyone
as much
else.
on the later
That's what they
commanders.
do,
Yeah, they do
especially
what
for a
they
guy like
do and
Stukov.
does what they do. There's some Zerg commanders that have good synergies with Stukov, obviously just by nature of creep, but
Yes.
which we'll talk about here soon. But as far as the other ones, it's like there's not like real special synergies that you're looking at as much as some of the earlier commanders.
Speaking of Zerg, what do you think about Keraigan and Stukov?
Yeah, I'd say this is his number one synergy because of malignant creep. Stukov just pushes creep out across the map from the start of the game. Eventually, it covers the whole map.
Careful,
Kerrigan, I
you're gonna
mean,
make Raynor jealous by claiming he is Kerrigan's number one synergy.
yeah, sorry, Raynor. Stukov's too handsome, too smart, too rich.
Too infested.
But yeah, too infested. Yeah, they've got too much in common. Maybe if you'd gotten a little bit of Zerg on you, she might stay around. But
Maybe he
anyways,
has Zerg where the sun don't shine.
yeah, and yeah, so you have the P1. This is like the best opportunity to use P1 Kerrigan is when you're with Stukov, really, because you don't have to worry about your creep tumors being killed as much, especially because you can help push the creep out a lot faster by laying creep tumors, although you don't have to. But then even if the creep tumor dies, it stays around as long as it's connected back to the command centers of Stukov. So you
Yes.
do have that option.
Also,
Yeah.
Stukov's overlords can manually spread creep at the very beginning of the game, so you can actually just get the creep moving right away.
Yeah. So
It's really
there's
good.
definitely that's P1's best opportunity is when you're playing with a Stukov, really.
Yeah.
Because the infested Marines benefit heavily from the attack speed buffs and everything
Not
like
just
that
the
as
Marines,
well.
the
So
siege tanks, Diamondbacks,
everything really,
everything.
and well, everything that's on the ground.
Really good.
So pretty darn good. If you're not playing P1, I guess you technically, if you're going mech, particularly, Omega Worms can be nice for
Yeah,
getting around for Stukov.
you can
I don't know.
infest
Can
them.
you?
You can.
Yeah, you can infest structure. Can you load infested Marines into Omega Worms or no? Because
I've
they're
never
timed
needed
units.
to.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can load timed units in. So that would be a big limiting factor.
Then again, I rarely play P3 on regular brutal, and I rarely encounter a Kerrigan player who actually uses Mega Worms. So this is like an ultra rare situation that I almost never find myself in. And I've never needed to load guys into the Mega Worms.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty good synergy. Like I said, I think it's his best, most powerful synergy.
Yes. Also, Kerrigan's Money Wave can help Stukov's, as earlier mentioned, slow ramp up speed. So the free money can help a little bit. Not great, but every bit helps, right? Okay.
Yeah, everything helps for sure. And Kerrigan, well, that's the thing. I think their biggest failing is that they're both pre 4 minutes very weak in general. So they're not helping each other out in that way at all. But
they're both screwed against the first Poopigator.
Yeah, once you get to 4 minutes, they're going to go really well together, I'd say. So,
all right. Next up, we have Zagara and Stukov. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I guess the least of any of the Zerg commanders, but probably still more than anyone else, just by nature of creep.
By nature of being Zerg.
His biggest thing is, everyone has creep all the time, basically. So as long as that's around, you're feeling pretty good.
Zagara's great early game. She can cover Stukov pretty well.
Killer early game. If you're P3, then Zagara herself doesn't care too much about the large army versus large army thing, and you can split your actual units off to another area to deal with that. So
yeah,
I think just splitting your armies out kind of gets rid of the two big armies, and you can split your armies out in both directions quite well because Stukov's creep just goes everywhere. So I think there's still a good synergy just by nature of Zerg. And actually being able to make use of creep for once. That's basically anytime you get a Stukov ally as a Zerg, you're like, oh, hey, I actually get buffs from creep because I'm never going to be on it otherwise.
Yeah. Something else is, in the late game, Zagara runs out of steam a little bit, especially when things like Avenger are on, which Stukov might be better against, but I don't know. I guess Avenger, is Stukov that much better than Zagara?
I'd say so. Transmutation is where you're gonna have problems.
Oh yeah, transmutation could be here from both of them. Poopigators though, Poopigators. Zagara cleans that. Stukov struggles. Zagara cleans.
Yep, the Banelings. So they have some good synergies. But yeah, I think definitely the worst possible option against transmutation would be Zagara Stukov. Probably. I don't think there's a worse option for two commanders at least.
Maybe. Okay, let's move on. That's enough of them. Next up, Abathur. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about great benefit, but good benefit from Stukov's Infinite Creep. Abathur, I mean, you can go Mass Swarm Host, but I like going air units early on at least, getting, depending on the enemy unit composition, getting like 5 to 10, well, obviously Leviathans and everything like that, and Vipers, but it still is a benefit.
Vipers are incredible synergy.
Yes, Vipers are very good synergistically, but they're not getting any benefit from the creep, is all I mean.
True.
Abathur, if you have a good Abathur, obviously covers the early game in most situations really well, so that's great, get out your early Brutalist portion of that.
The synergy portion of that is that Stukov does not participate in the early game, so Abathur doesn't have to fear Stukov ruining the farming.
Oh my!
Sometimes you have guys like Karax who are orbital striking things that you want to lure into toxic nests. No, my biomass! Stop!
Yeah.
Or Dahaka just devouring the things. My Donnie.
Yeah.
So the fact that Stukov's a slower early game is good for Abathur's peace of mind.
Yeah, doesn't get in the way, which is nice.
Yes. You know what Stukov helps any commander, no matter who? Any commander.
What would that be?
Killbots.
True. Yes.
Killbots plus Stukov is equal to free win for any of his allies.
Yeah, 100%. So definitely his best synergy is just dealing with killbots for sure.
But speaking of Abathur, yeah, aside from the early game thing, I guess Stukov can also help break Abathur's rocks. I know Abathur can also just use spine crawlers, but personally, I'd rather see to my biomass gathering. My first 3 Brutalisks are more important than getting an expansion, or at least more urgent than getting an expansion. But if I
Yes.
look back at my expansion and see that a bunch of infest have already cleared the rocks, I'll be very happy. I'll be so happy. I would give free
Yeah.
Vipers to that Stukov just for that. So good. So good.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to spend the 300 minerals on a couple spine crawlers, then it's nice to not that early on in the game.
and the attention span, just not having to look back at your base. So good.
Yep. Yeah, it's on the micro.
Moving on. We have the Haka and Stukov. What do you think?
I mean, he's the least synergistic of the Zerg commanders because Dahaka doesn't actually. He's not Zerg. He's primal Zerg, so he doesn't get the creep benefit. I think they work well enough together. The whole Dahaka's lack of reliable defense is not accurate. He's got primal worms. He's got swarm hosts. He's got basically everything. There's almost
Yeah.
none of his units that are bad.
Yeah.
At defense, especially Dead of Night or Night of the Dead. I mean, primal igniters are fantastic. Impalers, then you just some igniters and impalers. Impalers take out the big heavy units, and igniters murder all the little infested in the early game, and then late game you have Tyrannosaurs, swarm hosts, primal hosts, everything. So I don't agree with that. The
All
extremely
that
long
being said,
cooldown,
sometimes there are situations where Stukov is extremely helpful to the Haka. For example, when the choker stuns the Haka. So you can just infest the building,
yes,
or you can just summon the
yes,
Apocalypse. That would be very helpful. Or
yeah.
in the early game,
Or the Joker never stuns Dahaka because it's busy stunning 5 useless infested Marines.
yes, that's a really good situation for them to be synergistic. Also,
Yep.
Spooters are not targetable by Impalers or
That's true. That's true.
Igniters. Or even Dahaka in the early game, unless you devour it, but that was at his cooldown back by a whole minute. You don't want to do that. It's a waste of cooldown.
Yeah. So,
So yeah.
Marines are good there.
Yeah, Marines are good there.
So,
Uh,
not bad. I just think he's not. I don't think he has a lack of reliable defense necessarily, but it still does help.
Speaking of reliable defense, this week's mutation, Missile Command. Bunkers serve exactly what Dahaka needs in his base.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's things like missile command and whatnot. Yeah. Definitely.
Although neither of them have good early detection. Yes, Overseers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Overseers are the best he's got.
Yeah.
Managing to get to level 5
That just feels
relatively
bad.
quickly.
Feels bad, man.
Suboptimal for sure, but you have primal worms, although not for the first like 4 or 5 minutes. So
Yeah. Oh well. Other Zerg. Oh, Stetboy. Stukov and Stetboy. If your PC is having too much of a good time, if you feel that it's not being stretched properly to its limits, play Stukov and Stetboy. Oh, and use second prestige Stukov, and load up all the infested you can. That'll really test
And
how
make
strong your PC is.
Massling Infester for Stetman as well. That's
Yes.
P2
Actually,
and Massling.
it's not actually the infestor that makes Stetboy. It's the blue zone. When Zerglings move in and out of the zone, it causes the CPU to recalculate their movement speed and attack speed. And we have lots of Zerglings moving in and out in rapid succession. That's what makes it lag. Now
Right.
unload.
Well, I can apply.
Unload a bunch of
Ravagers as well.
infested. A lot of
Yeah,
a bunch of
unload
invested
into
from
the blue
P2.
zone, so it has to update their speed while unloading them. You might be able to crash your game and your whole computer. You might torch your computer.
Bring a
So
fire
yeah, I mean, if you're
extinguisher.
wanting your parents to buy you a new computer, there you go. You're welcome.
How old do you
Um,
think my viewers are?
I don't know. I probably 30 and living in the basement. That was
Fair, fair. Yeah, guys, just let your parents buy you new computers.
I'm joking, guys. I love you. I respect you. You all have great careers. You're making lots of money.
Please
Anyways, yeah,
donate.
I mean,
Give me money.
yeah, take that money. A mobilization waved here. Easy peasy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, technically do synergize outside of the issue of CPU. Do synergize pretty well together. Speed zones get
Against
the
the
infested out there
CPU.
quicker.
They really synergize against the CPU.
Yeah, that's what they are most powerful against for sure. Is the your processor, but stat zones do help a lot. And then Super Gary, great detection, but of course he's not instantly out. So I guess pre 4 minutes.
The green zone will help us infest a lot. Just a
Yeah,
little bit
green
of
zone.
regen. Oh, even the blue zone
Yeah.
actually.
Blue zone to get there means you don't have to like reposition your bunkers as much because the infested just get out there much faster.
Yeah.
And then green zone to help keep them alive. So it's good.
Oh, purple zone on the brood queens.
Yeah, purple zone on brood
Oh.
queens is exactly what I was gonna say. There you go. Oh, that's another. I was gonna say. I think I forgot to mention it. Vorazun, brood queen Vorazun, dark pylon synergy is there as well for the increased energy region.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So so
Um,
many great synergies. But yeah, I don't think Stukov's a particularly he's not a synergistic commander at his core as much.
Yeah, just that boy is. Oh.
Yeah.
Is there anything that Stukov can give Stetboy? I mean, aside from his gases, lag, extra lag. If you need more lag,
Yeah, extra lag.
team up against the CPU. Oh my darling! All right.
I don't think there's much.
Yeah, not really. It's mostly Stetboy giving the synergies. Let's move on.
Yep.
There's one more here that I wanted to show. Trivia. Stukov can be attained for free by those who purchase Starcraft Remastered. So if you have Starcraft Remastered, Starcraft 1 players, play Stukov. It's really easy to get into. If you're playing Starcraft 2 for the first time, if you've played Starcraft 1, you'll transition just fine to Stukov. Stukov's phrase "Das Vedanya" is replaced by "Hasta la vista, baby" in the Russian localization. Is that Spanish? Spanish?
Hasta la vista. Yeah, it's Spanish. It just means like see you later, basically.
Oh, see you later. Hasta la vista. Stukov
Hasta la vista.
Stukov's infested. There was one guy who commented last week, trying to give me heat for mispronouncing Ankalagan. He doesn't know that I probably know more about the Lord of the Rings than most other people do. I've won two quiz nights. I've won 2 Lord of the Rings themed quiz nights basically on my own. I did have some help from my wife, thank you, wife. But yeah, it's basically on my own. I won 2 of them. You're gonna talk to me about Lord of the Rings. Please do. I love Lord of the Rings.
I feel like
Please do.
can be obtained for free by those who purchase. So that's not really free. You do
More like
still
a
have
bonus.
to buy the Remastered. Yeah.
It's like an add-on.
I'm sure they didn't calculate it into the price of Starcraft Remastered at all.
No.
So it's just totally a free edition. So,
yeah.
yeah.
At this point, they've made back all the returns, and it's not like it costs anything. It's just giving free software, or software you've already developed and paid for. So it is free, essentially.
Yeah. Give Activision more money. I mean, frankly, they probably don't even have access to the bank account for any StarCraft related purchases anymore. It's just all accruing there, and they've completely forgotten about it. It's like a quarter of what they make in a day from.
They even forgot
Call
the
of
bank
Duty.
account. They don't even know the account name, the account number. It's just there sitting.
Didn't we close that like 6 years ago? Yeah, it's just it's just a hole in the ground you're chucking your money into so you can play Stukov. But if you got to do it, I will say don't just buy StarCraft Remastered if you only want Stukov because it's still more expensive. So if you're just looking for Stukov. And you're
StarCraft
not
Remastered is
interested in
pretty good
remaster.
though. StarCraft 1's really good. I
It
know
is good. I'm just saying,
the
if you're
controls
not
are
gonna
really.
play it, then it is still cheaper to just buy Stukov
I mean, I
if
would
that's all you're interested
if you
in. And you can
haven't
still play
played.
StarCraft 1 for
Yeah, if you haven't played
With the-
StarCraft 1, the campaign alone is worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Stukov's infested civilians can be seen carrying sticks and rocks. With an 11% chance, how did they even find this out? 11% chance to spawn with a rock, and 10% chance to spawn with a stick. The Hawk's coming for those infested.
Rock is better than stick. 11% chance.
The Hawk is coming for those infested carrying rocks. He's gonna slap those rocks.
Yeah. I assume that's in the editor or something. You can see that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very
Reminds me
cool
of the,
trivia. I like the trivia. I like the trivia portion. Anyway, yeah, Stukov, very easy. Recommend for easy players. Just build bunkers, you'll win. You can make brood queens. They're really nice, but if you're a beginner, just make bunkers, you'll win. Guys, hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for Talski, please leave it in a comment. I will go to bed and see you in the morning.